this video we're going to talk about Alexander the Great and the Hellenistic revolution that he brought upon the world and the empires that he conquered. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is how is his legacy tied to Greece, because the Hellenistic revolution was the spread of Greek culture over the areas that he had conquered, and that was a really interesting thing because that meant that Greek ideas could spread further away in the world, and that led to the technological and cultural development. But why is he known for this, and how did it come into being? Because the thing is that Alexander the Great was actually Macedonian, and even though the Macedonians spoke a dialect of Greek, they weren't exactly considered Greek by the Greeks because their culture was looked down upon. They were thought to be backwards, and they weren't very culturally developed and educated, and that's why the other Greeks thought that they weren't actually a Greek polis. But Alexander the Great's father, King Philip II of Macedonia, he was full of ambition, and this ambition led him to attack Greece and then later conquer Greece and make it his empire. So before King Philip of Macedonia, Greece polis weren't unified. They were allied in the Delian League and the Peloponnese League, but they weren't one unified state. To make a very long story short, I'm just going to say that two of the Greek polis, Athens and Sparta, two of the mightiest of Greek polis, they had come in conflict with each other, they and their allies, and that had led to the weakening of Greece polis. And when King Philip II attacked, they were vulnerable to this attack and they fell, and then Greece became his empire. And then Alexander inherited it from his father, and 2 years after the death of his father, he had even greater ambitions than his dad, and he wanted to attack the Persian Empire, which was the greatest empire of that time, and that he managed to do. And not only did he manage to conquer the Persian Empire, he also managed to conquer Egypt, India, and then his empire included Greece, India, Egypt, and the Persian Empire. It was a very huge area of land which came under Alexander, and that led to the Hellenistic revolution, the meeting of three cultures, of three very important civilizations and their cultures. But why didn't he conquer more land? And the reason for that is that his soldiers refused to go any further from India. They were tired, so they asked him to return, and he returned. He listened to his soldiers, and on the way back home, he died in Babylonia in 323 BC. At that time, he was 33 years old. So after that, his empire got divided between three of his generals. They didn't know of any legitimate sons of Alexander, I think. I'm not sure. The important thing with this story is that Greek culture managed to spread across this very big area, very big piece of land. And before I talk about that, I'm gonna say that the Greeks looked down upon the Macedonians because they didn't have any culture, because they weren't really educated. And King Philip II of Macedonia saw this, and he wanted to educate his son. He actually invited Aristotle, the great Greek philosopher, to educate his son. He opened a school in his capital, Pella. And so he saw the importance of culture and education, so he gave it to his son, and then his son Alexander the Great saw the importance of Greek culture as well, and then he spread it to his very huge empire. So Alexander encouraged marriages between his soldiers and the local women of the regions that he conquered, and that contributed, of course, to the spread of Greek culture. But Alexander wasn't really forceful. He allowed people to practice their religion, etc., as long as they weren't opposing him. Even though Greek culture was being spread on a not a global basis, but on a very huge piece of land, there was one thing that was lost, and that was the political system. Greece was, of course, not all of Greece, but a lot of the Greek polis were democracies. The people ruled, but now the political influence was with the king and the citizens weren't able to influence political decisions anymore. But still, Hellenism and the Hellenistic societies are a very interesting mix that we see, because the Egyptian and the Mesopotamian civilizations were also known for their technological developments, and to see the technologies used in these three civilizations meet and mix, that would have been very interesting and would have led to a lot of development.